Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Zach Congonis. We are here to bring you the best solutions to your lifting problems. Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
So, we have Bowser in here as well today. Thomas is stirring him up. This is going to be a problem. Yes, the challenge that I wanted to throw. First question that I have for you, Zach. Obviously, your history, you were a track and field athlete way back in your previous days.
Yeah, when I was a wee child.
Yeah. Do you recall what your 100-meter sprint was? Your time?
Oh, it was in the 11s?
Was it?
It was in the 11s, but I was also 14?
Okay.
I don't believe it. I honestly don't believe that. Just putting it out there, just on the record, I don't believe that.
Okay.
I think my best, it was in the 11s. It definitely wasn't.
You can't even
11s.
dunk. How can you run 11 seconds?
I mean, it was a lot easier when I weighed 40 kilos.
So, obviously with your recent ankle, do you reckon you could still sprint 100 meters? And if so, how much? How fast do you reckon you could go?
Definitely faster than you. I could do that on one foot.
Because that is my challenge. Let's do a 100-meter sprint. And I was talking to Will, what the penalties are as a male that technically should be faster than me as a female. We were saying, your size clearly is a disadvantage for you because you...
My right foot also doesn't work right now.
Yes,
so
exactly.
So
that was the other
one.
disadvantage. But should we have a 10-meter penalty or anything like that?
Also, there's a significant chance that your hamstring tears off.
I was going to say,
so
this is a good recipe for a torn hamstring.
This is
I
Jack.
love the shade you threw as well. It wasn't how fast do you think you can run 100 meters? It's can you run 100 meters? And if so, how fast?
That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, didn't work out for Jack, but Jack... He was going around the corner,
bend.
so there was nah. You don't go around, especially There's so many factors for Jacko. You just got absolutely screwed over by the kids.
So that's my challenge. Are you willing to accept my challenge as a 100-meter sprint? Because I obviously am you're probably far more conditioned than I am at the moment. I don't remember the last time.
Can I have a time frame so I don't blow out my Achilles? That'd be nice.
We'll discuss this further because obviously everyone would have heard we have another voice, another person in the room. But we can expand on this a little bit more, put some rules in place. But are you willing to accept a 100-meter sprint challenge, me v you?
Yes, unequivocally.
Okay, let's fucking do it.
Send location.
Yeah. My money's on Mickey, just putting it out.
More details to be confirmed.
We can better pair eyes on it.
You're talking to the GPC winner of Nationals, undefeated. Won his only ever Nationals, still to this day hasn't lost.
Undefeated.
So,
never done another one. It's the best way to
but
do
I
it.
feel like that's another disadvantage. He's a fucking...
No.
Yeah, okay.
That's the competitive spirit.
I just saw you've been racing...
I will destroy you.
You've been racing a kartie, and no offense, but holy shit, he's slow.
Mickey, I will absolutely.
Mickey's just starting off on a rampage. Wow. All right.
Kartie,
You don't understand how hard I'm going to try now, just to absolutely
just to beat me at
you.
something. You want to beat me at something?
What do you mean something?
Oh, Mickey.
Jesus Christ! Let Thomas speak.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's get off this.
We do.
Jesus.
We started off with a vengeance, but we do have Thomas Lilley in the room.
Hello.
He competed on the weekend in equipped powerlifting.
I lifted.
Yes.
I don't use the word compete. I lifted.
How many people were there in your
class, in your category?
Hang on, there was me.
0.
No, you're taking on the history of equipped powerlifting. That's
right.
what you were doing.
That's right.
So it went well. You had, I don't know if it was 9 for 9, but from what I saw, you got all your attempts.
No, I missed my third bench.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed my third bench. So I went 8 from 9, 10-12.5, which is the biggest equipped total in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Who held it before you?
So Wayne Hallett had 10-10, and then Les Rowe did 10-10.5.
Significantly bigger men than you.
Yeah, much chunkier.
Weight classes.
Yeah, well, I think Wayne did. I'm not sure what weight Wayne did it at.
I know
I
he
thought it was
used to be
125.
125.
He was in the 125s, but I'm not sure if he did the equip then. Regardless, he's much larger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I weighed in at 116 something. But it was fun. And I saw Zach.
I was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it looked like a really good comp. Like, for you're happy with it as being a part of APL and stuff that you're happy with the New South Wales and how that crew has come together, because it just looks really, really fun, like, honestly.
Yeah, well, so the Strength Tribe's gym is amazing, and they've moved into a bigger location, and it's incredible. And they just put on a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit weird claiming the record. Like, I don't really like it because I don't think my third squat was good. I think it should have got reds on depth. And if you look at it from a bunch of different angles, you could go, oh, maybe it was good, maybe it wasn't. But I know how my squat looks from the side when it looks like that at the front, and I could feel it. But, maybe refs couldn't see past the spotters and it was benefit of the doubt. I don't know. It got whites.
Yeah, you have to take it.
And it was easy, so I think if I could have squatted it deeper. Yeah. So I'm just going to tell myself that to help myself sleep at night.
Chuck a bit more in there.
I'm not going to do a Herbie and contact the meet directors in open powerlifting and say scrap it from the records.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pressure on that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Had to do it at that point. That was that was a crazy meet. But what do you feel like the difference is with equipped powerlifting compared to raw? Because when I think about it, like, I almost get a little bit of this with wraps. I always think to myself, like, when I chuck wraps on, especially like comp tight wraps, and they're giving you, say, like, whatever it is, 5-10% extra on that bar, when I get under it, my brain's like, what are you doing? Like, you can't lift this. Like, are you an idiot? like my brain's just like fighting me at every moment. Do you find with the equipped suit that's amplified? Like, your brain's just like, there's no way you can do this. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, well, you hit the nail on the head. You have to be an idiot to do equipped powerlifting. So. It's very different. It's very different just in the, like, I enjoy the skill aspect of it. I enjoy the challenge of it. But I guess the difference between a wraps gives you a little bit of a glimpse, or a slingshot gives you a little bit of a glimpse, but those things are so much more forgiving. It's like it's not that far removed from what it's like with raw, whereas equipped, even though it's exactly the same movement, it does feel completely different. And I guess I enjoy the fact that it requires a good understanding of technique, and it requires precision. I like that about it. But it hurts a lot. It's not fun.
Yeah. I think mentally it would be, the hardest part would just be getting over that. And just like the session lengths, like I've seen you in there, like it takes forever to get in that suit, to take it off.
This time around has been good because the equipment I'm using is pretty big, so I can pretty much just slip it on and off, which is nice. Whereas in the past, I was like hanging off of bars and
I've seen it.
All that nonsense.
Do you feel like that was a bit of a disadvantage then? Because equipped, you're meant to be really like, well, my understanding is you're meant to be pretty like snug in there rather than just like slipping it on like a normal soft suit.
Yeah,
obviously you get more out of it, I'm assuming, if it's a little bit like stiffer and rigid on you.
For sure. I had to pre-plan this because, like with knee wraps, you scale into it. You don't just go from sleeves to comp tight wraps. You wear an old pair of wraps and then you go a little bit tighter. Unless you've been doing equip for ages, which I haven't. I've just got a few old suits lying around. You don't have like a catalog of different equipment that you put on and scale up. So my thinking was, we'll buy stuff or have stuff that's slightly bigger and then grow into it. Just be relaxed with diet and eat a bit more and get a bit chunkier. And so it got progressively tighter towards the end. But by then, I'd just gotten a good rhythm and routine of slipping the stuff on. But on comp day, it was pretty tight. Like, I don't know if you saw Zach, but it took me 3 goes to do my last deadlift warm-up.
Me and Travis were watching you, and you went to pick it up, and you're like, nah, that fucking hurts too much. And then when you picked it up, it was just so quick. Travis was like, what the fuck?
I actually started thinking to myself, I might bomb on deads. I didn't think I was going to get one. So what happened is I put the suit on, and by the end of the day, I'd bloated up so much, like, all I'd had was fluid. I didn't eat anything. I just had salt tablets and Maximus all day.
Strategy.
Well, the comp was so quick. Like, there was no time to eat without feeling sick. By the time I put the deadlift suit on and put the straps up for my last warm-up, I went to grab the bar and I couldn't reach. And so I hiked up the legs a little bit, and then I reached down and I got my hands on the bar, but I couldn't set my grip, so I got it like 2 inches off the floor and I had to drop it. Then I had to quickly run and get some chalk, and I got the third one, but it was like hanging on by a thread. And so I was a bit nervous that I wasn't going to get any deads, but it worked out in the end.
I watched the third deadlift. I watched the last bit of it, but the third deadlift looked a bit rough.
Yeah.
It just grabbed it and kind of just holding on for dear life a little bit.
Yeah, it pulled me forward, and so it got a little bit rampy. That's the other thing with the record. You know, I look at that deadlift, and I'm like, if I was reffing in the moment, I don't know if I would have given it a white or a red. Like, watching the video 10 times, you could, you can sit there and analyze it to death.
So easy to slow. It's like you see people online that have never lifted anything heavy in their lives, like, slow it down and look at the exact angle, and they're like, oh, yeah, you see? It's just... It's not the same.
Yeah, and I'm a confident ref, And so the weird thing is like, because it's my own lift and because I got tagged in a bunch of videos, you see it from all these different angles. And some angles, I'm like, yeah, that's clean as fuck. And then some other angles, I look at it and I'm like, Bowser keeps tripping over the court. And then other angles, I look at it and I'm like, there's no way I'd give that a white light. So yeah,
it was the same with my deadlift, the last one at Pro Raw a few years ago that copped a lot of heat, and I got tagged in all these videos. Some people were behind, some people were side on directly, then some people were directly in front.
Well, you didn't lock it out at the top.
And then, some of them I was like, yeah. And then other ones I was like, no, that's terrible. And like, honestly, looking back on it, I would have been fine with either call.
50-50.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
But the amount of people online that were just warriors, like just.
But the amount of people as well. Obviously, you're competing against Sebastian. That has one of the biggest followings in powerlifting in Australia. So of course there's going to be a lot more hate and shade
even if
like
it was
thrown
perfect,
at you. Like they would have been like, nah, fuck that guy. But then you think about it, like if you had any other lift that had gone your way that day, it would have been a little bit of a different story. But yeah,
there's so few people that you can watch deadlift from behind and look at their shoulders and it not look like it's not fully locked out. So the behind view that went around a lot is just unfair. Like in powerlifting rule books, in most of them, the refs are supposed to sit at the front corner of the platform. It's almost supposed to be like 3 front refs, because from behind in a deadlift, everything looks shit.
Yeah.
And that comp was even more unique because the refs were below a stage.
Below,
so
they're like half a meter below.
Anyway, it was good times. It was all right. I have a picture of it on the wall for a reason.
So Zach is still actually here as well. Just
hey, Zach.
Hiding.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still in the corner. I don't go anywhere. I can make a sandwich if you want me to.
That'd be great, actually.
The reason that what we were going to chat today about actually was about more the state of gyms and powerlifting gyms. You've been around for a fair while around powerlifting gyms. I don't know where
over a decade.
The original one that was in the landscape of powerlifting in Australia, but I'm pretty sure it was in that first wave. Yeah, and looking at things now, you've got the one that you're at on the weekend, Strength Tribes Gym. The zeros are all pristine and color matched and full of Eleiko gear and stuff like that. And in here, we're pretty like quote unquote premium, and it's so much different than when we go back and look at old photos of those and like all the PTCs, and not even just in Australia, but like all the powerlifting brands were like, you kind of had a dungeon, like they were a dungeony strength gyms were just like associated. Yeah, it's going to be like a concrete box with a dirty ass fucking ground, and nobody's ever going to chalk everywhere. And these days it's way different. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that kind of transition, because it's relatively quickly. What are we talking, like 20, 30 years? Yeah, it's kind of transitioned to that, and just get your insight.
Well, even in the decade that Thomas has had his facility open, you look at where it is then versus now. Like I know you had probably less than 10 mats in your gym.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it
just
was all
under
concrete floor.
Yeah, it's great. Like I just wanted to get your thought line on what is allowed for this transition. And like, why can 10, 20 years ago, I'd be limited if I wanted to train strength to a concrete, dirty box, to these days where I can walk into nearly any major city in Australia and train on just top-end equipment and have access to everything and have the best machines and like just crazy premium level equipment for a strength facility. Like what's your thoughts on the landscape and how that's changed?
I think it's interesting looking back, like it was almost an expectation that a powerlifting gym was kind of grungy and dirty and a bit gross. And like I think of myself as a powerlifter back then going into PTC Brisbane for the first time, which was, you know, I modeled PTC Gold Coast off PTC Brisbane. And it was like what PTC Gold Coast was even before you came, where it was mostly concrete floor, very dirty, very limited equipment. And I remember walking in and being like, I'm in heaven. Like this is the absolute best thing I've ever experienced. And objectively, our gyms were shit. Like not only was the equipment not that great, but there was so like commercial gyms are awesome, you know, they're packed out. You can have anything you want. But back then it was like, this represents what powerlifting is. And I'm so invested in powerlifting that this is the best thing ever. And I think the other thing is just like back then as well, you didn't see powerlifters. Like powerlifters only existed on the internet and the internet was just forums. And so to see other people in real life that were into the same thing as you was so cool. And so like that was kind of the expectation, but it was only the expectation because it was the only thing that existed.
Yeah.
There wasn't such thing as a Nexus where you could walk in and everything's clean and pristine. There's great machines and powerlifters and powerlifting.
Yeah,
like,
they were kind of separate. Like, that's where the animals train, and then this is where normal people train.
Exactly. Yeah, they were unicorns. And so I remember one thing that stands out to me massively. I remember a guy walked in and he looked at the gym and he's like, do you have dumbbells? And I'm like, yeah. And I had like 2 dumbbell handles. Remember those? They lived at the gym for ages that you just slipped things on. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, they're our dumbbells. Yeah. And he's like, I don't think this gym's for me. And he walked out and I'm like, what a loser.
Yeah.
Like, we literally had what he was looking for. Why would you want a rack of dumbbells? Like no one's even going to use them. I don't even like dumbbell presses. And I remember that sticks with me so well because as I started to transition into having more equipment, I'm like, equipment's awesome. Machines is awesome. And my mindset back then, the PTC mindset was no machines ever, no mirrors ever.
Yeah.
And my mindset was just like, well, if you don't have it, you can find an alternative, and that's all you need. We can get you strong without it. Like, why do you need this stuff?
Yeah, which is kind of true.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, like you can get. I think today almost people are privileged.
Oh, we're spoiled.
If we don't have a, you know, the exact. If I only have a lying hamstring curl and but I got to do seated hamstring curls because it's a more lengthened hamstring or whatever. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're definitely almost at the other end of the spectrum.
I remember someone coming in here before we had the Alico bar and being like, oh my God, you don't have an Alico barbell. I'm like, are you serious, mate? I've got Texas. I've got like every other barbell under the sun that you could possibly need. We've got plenty of stiff bars. We just didn't have an Alico bar that's, you know, $2,500 or plus. Yeah. And I was like, you spoiled little fuck.
I've told it on this a couple of times, I think, but like when I trained in Cairns, I remember, I don't know if you remember, like, because when you were coaching me, like, if you saw it in videos or whatever, but, like, we literally rocked up to this commercial bodybuilding gym, and it was a bodybuilding gym, so they had opposite philosophy. So it was, like, really machines-based.
Yeah.
Barbells, we have them, but whatever. And none of them had any knurling. Like, you were lucky to have knurling on it. And so at the start of every session, we would get the bars out, like, all 10 of them, whatever, feel the knurling, try to find the one that was the best one, and then roll them along the squat rack to see if they were straight. Yeah, and then you'd find the least bent one and then use that. And then also, like, we didn't have metal plates, so they were like the not quite bumpers, but, you know, commercial gym type plates.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got fucking strong with that.
They were smaller than your average, like, height.
So they were really high, so all my deadlifts were deficits. I found that out later.
Yeah.
But
so I think you still deadlifted, what, like 260, 270 or something like that in
that gym.
In that.
I trained out of that gym right into my first comp. And then at the first comp, I did 325.5 deadlift. So, I mean, like, you can definitely get strong with less than perfect equipment. For sure. Know? But so you think it's more of like it was more powerlifting. It was more the attitude of powerlifting, and we kind of put ourselves in this hole and went, like, that's who we are, and we don't need to get better because, like, that's all we need.
Pretty much. And so, like, I became acutely aware of this very quickly because powerlifting didn't exist on the Gold Coast. So when I opened the gym, There was sorry, I shouldn't say that. Yeah. Ben Polk had Gold Coast Barbell, which was PA, so PA was very exclusive. It was hard to grow, and he wasn't running novice comp, so he had a club, but it wasn't growing. It was a small club for the few powerlifters that existed on the Gold Coast. So he's the original Gold Coast powerlifting gym, and then
he now trains here.
Yeah, I know.
Still goes hard today.
Yeah. Still around it, still in the scene.
And so I was trying to market to powerlifters, but the only powerlifters that existed, because he closed down shortly after I opened, were in my gym anyway. So I was just marketing to myself. Like, if I want to grow the gym, I need to get people who aren't powerlifting into the gym and turn them into powerlifters. But everyone who came to the gym that wasn't a powerlifter was like, this is literally just a shed with like a few shitty pieces of equipment. Yeah. These people love it, but these people are weird.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I need to start to transition into something that's more appealing to the masses. And then over time, my mindset has slowly become what really solidified into what it is now, which is I want to commercialize strength training. I want to make strength training appealing. Yeah. To appeal to people that are in the gym, you have to have a gym that mirrors what commercial gyms have, but brings to it what we have in terms of expertise, powerlifting equipment. Show them what powerlifting is or strength training is, and then they'll slowly morph into that if they want to.
Also, the uniqueness of most powerlifting gyms is the culture and the community,
Absolutely.
Right? So, when you look at the price point between our facilities and an EMF or some other commercial chains that do actually now offer the monoliths and some of the powerlifting specific equipment, like what is another point of difference that we can market is the coaching and that sort of stuff, but also the community, because most people hate the culture and the atmosphere in commercial spaces.
I wouldn't say most, but yeah, some people.
A large majority of people do. So you're also appealing to a lot of people that feel like they're sick of that particular environment and atmosphere, and they want to take things to that next level. So they start there, they do what they need to do, and then they grow up and they find the Zeros or the Nexus or the PTCs or wherever. But that's just my own interpretation.
Yeah, we'll get to where it is these days, because I think there are definitely reasons, which you've already alluded to a couple, why these type of gyms can exist now, maybe back then. Because if say like you opened Zero in the state it is now back then, do you think it would have been successful? Because to me, it's like it's a little. I don't know if that would have been like ahead of its time, and like I said, like if the powerlifters of that time would have been ready for that, or would have accepted that as like a power facility. I don't know.
It's really hard to say.
Yeah,
it's really hard to say because, like you said, where I came from, where you came from, was just like we had the absolute shittiest of equipment. And so for me, in my commercial gym, I had the same situation. Like I went there, I'm pretty sure the original videos that you were sending me, you were squatting out of what I used to squat out, which is one of those like preset half racks. I had one of them. But for me, when I hit depth, I hit the safeties. So I had to walk out all the way past the safeties to do a squat to powerlifting standards and then walk a marathon back in.
Yeah.
And so I remember talking to my commercial gym owner and being like, bro, I compete in this sport. I really need a power rack because A, if I fail, I'm going to die. And B, I can't use this thing properly because I hit and he went out and bought one for me. It was fucking cool. Yeah. There was one bar that was decent, and I sometimes had to wait for an hour if someone was doing a session and I wanted deadlift. And then he upgraded. So do you remember those old Hampton plates? They were like a steel plate with rubber around the edge.
Oh, I don't think I've
Were they bright red?
Say that again?
Were they bright red?
Well, they were color coded in Olympic colors. So the 25s were red, and then the blues were 20s. So they were color coded, but they were like half bumper, half steel plate. The gym was full of them. They were the ABC, I guess, of the 80s and 90s in Australia. This Hampton brand, and the gym owner upgraded to Chinese rubberized steel plates with the handles, and like with your gym, they were less than 45 centimeters in diameter, so it turned every deadlift into a deficit. And he was selling them, and there were 2 plates left, and I'm like, please do not sell those plates. Please leave them in the gym, because when I deadlift, I need to deadlift from the side. And he kept them for me. So that's what I was working with. I had a really shitty bar, one bar in the whole gym that was half decent, one set of plates, and again, if they were used on the leg press or something, I had to wait until they were done so I could deadlift. And so when I first, in between that gym and PTC, I bought a power rack, a Texas bar, my own plates, like those heart plates that are still at the gym. And so this Texas bar was probably, I don't know, 15 years old, and it was the best. It was like, this is unreal. And so the expectation of what good equipment was back then was so low. The bar was set so low.
Yeah, I love it.
So like you said, I don't know if it would have been that appealing because powerlifters wouldn't have known what to do with it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have ever seen something as crazy as walking into a gym and seeing like a row of combo racks and a row of calibrated plates and enough calibrated plates for everyone to be doing their max at the same time. Like that was just such a unicorn. I
remember, just quickly on that, I remember when the gym in Cairns got a set of calibrated plates for the first time, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my God. And then they wouldn't let anybody use them unless you were doing like a week out from comp, like testing attempts.
Yeah.
Or like obviously at the comp. And so, and then it was just that was the stepping stone.
Were they chained up or something?
Yeah, they were away. You're gonna let touch them once.
What, does that gym still exist?
Yeah, Iron Strength.
Oh, okay.
That was that original.
That was
one.
the first ever.
Yeah, the OG Iron Strength.
Yeah. Obviously, they're grown quite
So that
considerably.
was PA. Yeah, slightly different rules and stuff.
That was pretty standard though. There were a lot of gyms that chained up bars and plates and stuff to preserve them for
comps.
Yeah.
They still had plates, your standard height ones. They were muscle motion, I think.
They were fine in every other aspect. I'm just saying that that was the next step. I feel like everybody kind of got them, and then whatever. What were the steps that you think, what started the evolution from going from the not only for yourself, but the culture of hey, we can do more. What kind of set that in play?
I think just seeing the growth happen and
overseas or something, see it. Oh
No.
wow, they do cool shit. No,
honestly, just I have never had my eyes that far further afield than what's happening right in front of me. Yeah. If from a business sense, the best thing you can do is watch what's happening right in front of you and listening to your customers. And so right from the very start, I remember, I think I ran a novice comp or something at the Narang gym, and I ended up with $500 or $1,000, and I remember thinking, okay, here's 5 items that I could buy with this money. And I put it in our private group, and I'm like, everyone vote, everyone tell me what you want.
Yep.
And everyone picked, I can't remember, it was a bar of some sort, or with a Swiss bar or something like that. Everyone picked a Swiss bar, so I went out and bought a Swiss bar. And my mindset has always been the same. What do my people want? How can I buy that to facilitate it?
Yeah.
And then over time, it's more like, what would be cool in my gym? I know, I'll get a neck machine just because I can.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Is that still there?
Yeah. It's still the same. It's very much like if there's the demand for a product, I'll go and buy that because the members matter. And so as the dynamic or the demographic of the membership changed from people only invested in powerlifting to people who were, into powerlifting but not completely, and they wanted more and more stuff, a hamstring curl would be cool, a leg extension, whatever. It's just this gym's shutting down, I'm going to buy a whole bunch of that stuff, and that's where I got the original leg extension, the same one that you guys have here, and that single leg hamstring curl we used to have. It was just always try and find that sort of stuff and listen to what people want and fill it up.
Yeah.
And so that attracted more of those people, listen to them more, and then it's that's morphed slowly into this commercialized strength training.
In my mind, the thing I think that allows for gyms to now be more like the premium level that we're used to now, that was maybe different back then, I think is the heavy emergence or combination of online coaching as well. Because I still think if you had the facility you have now, which is unbelievable, and you opened it, but you didn't do any online coaching, I still think it'll be hard to get ahead a lot as still just a gym, because you're still appealing to a fairly small market, I guess. Mm-hmm. I know these days it's much more expanded stuff, so you could argue that, but I still think with online now and the more and more every day we're getting new apps and new ways to coach people online and make it more efficient and just do better at it, as I guess we've all become hybrid type facilities where we can coach people in lots of different ways and make money in lots of different ways, and then that feeds into the gym, and then the gym feeds back to that, and the branding is just bigger in general. Mm-hmm. Do you think you saw that as the popularity of powerlifting came up, the ways of coaching came up, the online coaching came up, it's all kind of scaled together? It's hard to separate them, I guess, but
Yeah, I don't know if I 100% agree that you couldn't run a gym like this without online coaching, but I definitely agree that if you don't offer it, you're probably doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, okay.
Especially like you guys will find, you probably already have found it in the last year or two that you've been open, but you'll find more and more as time goes on. The majority of people that leave you don't leave you because of you, they leave you because they move away. And those people, if you don't have an online option, will just move away. If you've got an online option, they often transition into online coaching. And like you said, you know, in terms of just like brand awareness and increasing brand awareness, like how much less would Townsville be an immediate success if you didn't have an online reach already? If you didn't have that brand expansion, like your spider web is so wide because of how long you've been doing online coaching for.
That trust, that authority wouldn't be there at all.
Yeah, if you were just a local Gold Coast gym and you open Nexus Townsville, people in Townsville would be like, what the fuck is Nexus? But because you already exist in that sort of broader sense, it's so much easier to uptake. But like I think of, you know, Cairns, Mackay, they do online coaching, but it's not their bread and butter. And they'd survive fine without it.
They're all different, yeah.
However, you know, if we think of, again, where we've come from, like PTC Gold Coast from, say, 2000 and I've looked at these numbers, from 2000 and maybe 14, 15 to like 18, 19, the growth of the numbers of gym membership, next to nothing. It's stuck around like 70 to 85 members that entire time. But I went from that membership plus, you know, 20, 30 online clients to over 150 online clients in that time. And so that money I could then reinvest into the gym. And so financially, not having that option to reinvest back into the gym, if you're invested in a gym, it then just comes down to like where your attention goes, money follows, you know? Yeah, so like if I was 100% invested in growing the gym, it probably would have grown. It probably would have made money and I could use that money to grow the gym even further. But my investment was in online stuff back then. And then I used that money to put back into the gym. And so it's much of a muchness, I guess.
Yeah. And you've taken that idea of the branding even one step further with the international ones now as well.
Yeah.
So nobody would have a fucking clue who you are or what you do if it wasn't for that online presence and for the whole brand as a whole. It'd make it next to impossible, I imagine, to do.
For sure.
In international.
For sure. I wouldn't, not next to impossible, but way harder, way more costly.
Yeah,
because you'd have to invest so much into just advertising
and getting to trust that person.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but you still have to.
Absolutely. Like brand trust is so huge. Like people who have never met you guys will speak highly of Nexus just because of that brand trust. And same thing with Zero. No, it's gigantic.
And what do you think the next step for, like, if we look at the evolution of powerlifting gyms, like, do you think we've reached as far as powerlifting gyms go? Like, I know you have a vision with the commercializing of it, like to make it more of a, I don't know if your goal is to make it more like a household name, like everybody, even people that don't train know what World's Gym is. They're like, oh yeah, World's Gym. Like if you want that level, but like, do you think there's validity in taking such a niche sport, or, you know, the idea of just strength and kind of blending it into the world and becoming more well known? Like, do you think, how far do you think we can take powerlifting? Because
I don't think it's ever going to go like that, like Worlds. And maybe that's me just being reductionist, but I never thought that Zero could be what it is now at the same time. What I would say is I don't think any gym like this can survive unless it steps up to the level of this. You know, like now we have set a standard. Like you can't open a gym like this without having the kind of equipment that you have, without kind of...
So PTC Gold Coast version 1 would not...
No, it would crumble. Absolutely. There's no way it could stand up to it. And for me, that's been really important because that's been a part of this whole idea of commercializing strength training. I want people to step up because I want the quality of gym, powerlifting, coaching, what powerlifting is to get better in Australia and worldwide, because that helps all of us. It makes more powerlifters. It makes powerlifting better. It attracts more commercial sponsorship. Like already for the Zero Pro, we've picked up like 10 grand of commercial sponsorship without trying that hard. And the aim is to get at least 30 grand to give away. And the only way that we can do that is to make powerlifting appealing. And the only way we can make powerlifting appealing outside of running the sport better is by like imagine if the sport was awesome, but you had to train in like PTC version 1.
Yeah.
That doesn't really match up.
Yeah.
Like imagine being an Olympic level swimmer, but having to I don't know, swim in a lake.
Yeah.
Hardcore, man.
Yeah. And I mean, there's countries where it's like that for sure, but we're a little bit beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think powerlifting, being the sport that it is, I think we can all, despite our biases and love for powerlifting, can admit that it's not the most enjoyable, like, spectator sport. And I don't even know how you look at changing that. But obviously just like making it more efficient, making things more clear and making it more known in general will do that. But
there needs to be storytelling in powerlifting, and I think that's the biggest missing link that makes it less exciting than some of the... Obviously, the lifts itself, like, it's not strongman, it's not pulling a truck or an aeroplane. Like, that's pretty cool visually to watch, but like there needs to be some more storytelling throughout it. I think that
like this person is that
Well, the lifts itself will never really change, right? Like it is what it is. So how do you make that a little bit more exciting? And I think storytelling is kind of like marketing the athletes and where they're kind of getting to and where they are. Like that appeal needs to happen a lot more.
100% agree. I don't know if you guys pay attention to the ABS Pro series that
was on the weekend.
Yeah. So they've been doing that for a few years, and they do like the full-on like UFC style press conference before the day before, and they do like they do the UFC style weigh-in. So they do the real weigh-in, but then they'll do like a live streamed like hammed up weigh-in stuff. Like they're trying to look at other sports and bring some of that to powerlifting.
Sort of stuff.
Because I agree, powerlifting is always just going to be powerlifting, and I don't want to write it up and be like, powerlifting's never going to be a massive appealing sport. It's like, well, it is what it is, and we can make it better. So let's just keep working on making it better. And every time we take it up a notch, it'll open your eyes into how we can make that better again and better again and better again. And the more of us that are sort of thinking, what can we actually do to make this different, the better. The problem with powerlifting as a whole is that it's run by powerlifters. So like we get pissed off at a federation, we start our own federation, but we just copy and paste the rule book, copy and paste the framework, and then just do exactly the same thing.
Yep.
But are just salty at everyone else, rather than being like, how do we look at this outside of the lens of just powerlifting? How do we look at what other sports do well and try and blend that and bring that into powerlifting? If we can do more of that, I think it'll get better.
Yeah.
And become more appealing. I love the storytelling thing that Mickey was just mentioning. And one of the things I want to do with the Zero Pro is once people commit to the pro level or even the one below the elite level, is start to get footage and interviews and be able to... You
need to have buy-in to the person because, like, as I said, like that individual,
yeah.
like that...
Emotional connection to them.
Yeah, that's going to get people into either the sport or just attending and watching your event because they're like, well, I know, like, for Will's comp, for example, at Pro Raw, like, we had a lot of people fly down there just to watch Will compete because, like, they didn't know who the other competitions were or anything like that, but they were so invested in him and his prep and his process that they're like, fuck it, like I'm going to spend $1,000 or more to go and watch because I'm invested in this particular individual and the story and the process that got for him to get there. Like we've always done, I remember, I think it was 2018 or 2017, the
YouTube series.
Yeah, the YouTube series or the story,
stuff,
Road to Pro Raw things, because it was the story of getting Will to that position that made it, a lot more marketable and stuff.
So I'd love to get more of that stuff, and my plan is, in the downtime in the comps between attempts, when there's that 5 minutes, play some clips up on the big screen and tell some of those stories and have a lot of marketing leading into it around the individual lifters and just make it more of a spectacle.
I've seen in America, I think when I was talking to Steffi maybe, when we were in Miami, she was talking about, they were going to run a meet. I don't know if it ever happened because of COVID, but they were going to run a meet and then between lifts, like have, I don't know, like a circus guy come out and juggle some shit, like just some sort of like entertainment in between lifts and shit like that. So,
well, that's what they do at ABS. They have fire breathers and ring girls and a light band. They had an incident actually where a fire breather was like up on a podium and then they lit fire to the band underneath. So
that was planned.
Yeah, you got to take care with the pyrotechnics. But yeah, no, if we can, I'm not that fussed on just like pure entertainment. I want the entertainment to center around what we do and again try and make it really focused on the lifters and make them the showcase, but the more stuff that we can make it. Like my mum, I've been powerlifting now for 14, 15 years. And my mum came to my comp on the weekend. She's never seen powerlifting before. She's probably seen some of my videos, but she's never been to one of my comps. So it was the first time for her to experience powerlifting. And I'm like, what did you think, Mum? What do you think of powerlifting? And she's like, yeah, it was pretty cool. I'd never go and watch it. She's like, I watched it because you were there, but I'd never go and watch it.
That's literally my parents. My parents have seen Will compete 3 or 4 times now. And my dad was like, oh, can I just come back and watch the deadlift one? Because that's kind of the coolest one. Like, I don't really like the squat's pretty cool because it's on their back and their heads look like they're about to explode. But like the deadlift is kind of the really cool, exciting one, and a lot of that's because that's where the storytelling kind of really comes to fruition, and the battles kind of find like it's the end result. So there's also the fact that it just visually looks a little bit cooler. I don't know if we just have a bias with that, but
yeah, the abs one, they do the like the multi-weight flight, where they compared on dots.
It's on dots, so similar to what we're doing with the zero.
Yeah, I think that makes it a little bit more entertaining because you've got, I don't know, it allows for a little bit more comparison. Because I always think one of the hardest things about powerlifting, like when I go with Mickey's parents or whatever, is like, they're like, I don't know, there's a person in the flight, at the start of the flight, lifting a 200 kilo squat. And there's a person at the end of the flight and he's doing like a 400 kilo squat, but at the end of the day, it looks exactly the same unless you're sitting there counting or unless the announcer's like yelling it in your face or whatever. Like it's not immediately just obvious that, whereas when you're pulling a plane in strongman, it's a fucking plane. It's heavy, that's impressive. So it's just obvious that that's a hard thing.
Yeah. One of the best powerlifting experiences I've ever had was the second ever GPC Nationals 2013. They decided to do a super flight. And so it was Dan Green's first time out to Australia. It was Odell. He pulled the first. He squatted the first 400 ever in Australia, and then you had all the like Aussie superheroes back then as well, like Scott Wasson and Ricky Goodyear and all those guys in this final flight of deadlift. So it was like Scott Wasson did this 320, and then Ricky Goodyear came out and did 330, and I think Nathan Jones was competing and did a 300 and whatever deadlift.
The goats.
And then Dan Green came out and pulled 380, and Odell came out and pulled 390, and it was just like banger after banger after banger, all in the same flight. And
I love that.
That would have been really cool.
It was insane. Like I've to this date never experienced something as crazy as that in powerlifting.
I feel like Marcos maybe was trying to do that with the big dogs thing, but yeah, a
little bit different. But to add another layer to it, because you've gone to the American Arnold,
Yeah.
You had, like they had the animal cage. Well, they used to. I don't know if they anymore.
Yeah,
but,
it's called the, we were talking about it the other day, the rhino cage now.
Okay, they've rebranded. Yeah. But, like, where do you see that sort of stuff fitting in? Because that, to me, is like, it adds, maybe it's an in-between thing, or maybe it's like something else or whatever. But, like, stuff like that I feel like it makes it more relatable. Like, average person can watch that and go like, oh, wow, that's impressive or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was always the draw card of Pro Raw. After, 2017, when it got in the Arnolds, like that was the opportunity to go and watch the freak show and to see what strong people actually look like. And the cage captured that beautifully. I don't know how we can replicate that. Like, I don't know how.
Because we may need another expo.
Yeah, because how do we put powerlifting in front of non-powerlifters? Because all of our comps, like even, Zero Pro and Nationals and all of that sort of stuff, we can't encourage non-powerlifters to come to that. It's quite hard to get that to happen. It's almost like you need to have that captive audience to then show them. And expos were great for that.
That's what Steffi was trying to do with in Miami. It was called Kratos, and it was the bodybuilding or weightlifting. But instead of it being bodybuilding, it was you're going to lose a foot there, Thomas. Instead of it being bodybuilding, it was just other strength sports. So it was tying all the strength scene together. So
I can see us doing that because, like, even at Pro Raw that same weekend in Melbourne, they had the
Australia's
Strongest Man and whatever. So.
But even then, like, imagine if we did that, like Strength Sports Expo. The people that are coming are people in strength sports.
Yeah, but it's still, I don't know.
It'd be fucking cool.
Yeah.
For sure.
You start with that maybe, and then you add in fucking whatever the stuff at the expo was, like the nights or whatever.
Speed, Boo Hurt and speed cubing.
Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Stacking.
Boo Hurt?
Yeah, that's the
Viking gladiator-looking dudes.
Yeah, the old English
Yeah.
sort of
I'm
stuff.
sure they've got the same problems in their sport. I'm sure there's nobody rocking up to a speed cubing comp that isn't like a friend or family. Like
Speed cubing's pretty fucking big. I watched a documentary on speed cubing.
yeah.
They get some.
Yeah, but
it's
they're
like
in the-
chess. Like they get some pretty big audiences.
Yeah, but still, you're not getting some guy who's never watched it in his life just rocking up and going like, "Oh, this is gonna be great." Like I don't know, it's not basketball or something where it's like I don't even know the rules of basketball, but I'll still watch it sometimes.
I mean, in fairness, if golf exists, powerlifting can get a bigger audience. Well, people watch golf.
Jamie's not
Well,
in the room.
we've got a good documentary on like making golf more exciting. It's called Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
That's right.
We need an Adam Sandler movie on powerlifting.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up, just from like a more of a business owner viewpoint, is the rapid change in, I guess, your role. Just because like I knew you were like training out of there and saw you do what I think a lot of gym owners struggle with, which is kind of,
Doing everything.
sitting in there and coaching everybody and cleaning and like literally every job in the gym that. So I've seen you from that and then evolved to where you are now, and I guess the changes that you've made along the way, like doing that at such a rapid pace. What have you found most challenging in that evolution?
To let go of, I think, as well.
For you?
Like for me, there's a few things that I really struggle to let go of in the progression of Nexus over the last few years. Coaching was one of those things that it was like I have to stop taking people on, because if I'm constantly working in the business, it makes it really hard for it to expand. But yeah, is there any like roles in particular that you've struggled to let go of as the whole brand of Zero has expanded?
I think the hardest thing in general is like we all know what we need to do. Like you ask any business owner, what do you need to do to improve? Everyone knows what they need to do. Actually doing it is the hard part. And I guess that's simple enough to say, but in terms of the direct question, I think the hardest thing to swallow is delegating, but then trusting. Being able to let go and being able to be like, okay, I've hired this person for this role. Here's their job. Go do it. And then not micromanaging and not stressing when it's not done the way that you want it to be done, and accepting that everyone thinks differently. And a big part of that is taking like the idea of extreme ownership and being like, if it's not done right, that's actually my fault. I didn't provide instruction. And if I didn't provide instruction, or if I feel like I didn't provide instruction, if I feel like I did provide instruction clear enough, then it's still my fault because I didn't provide it in a way that they saw as clear enough. It was clear enough to me, but I'm not talking to me. I'm talking to someone else. And being really okay with people not thinking the way that you think, people not having the same investment into your business as you have, not having the same level of care, not having the same eye to detail, all of that stuff. That is by far the most challenging part. And I think you need to be quite resilient and patient to not let it fuck with your head. This is definitely the hardest part, and it's a real lesson in how to communicate with people, how to understand communication style. And this is coming from me, whose real weak point in life is understanding other people. Like I think differently, I act differently, and so seeing things from different perspectives has been a real challenge for me, and it's something that I've had to put a lot of effort into learning.
Yeah, I don't trust Zach at all, so it's really hard for me. It's all right though. I just block my ears and just pretend. Nah, but
Mickey's just in the background organising mystery shops for me.
Wow, I agree. That's definitely.
I think the thing that has made because obviously Will handles a little less in terms of the roles and
The business
admin side of things. Like for me, one of the ways that has helped alleviate some of that is the actual process of recruiting people and making sure that like there's a different stages in which we're making people go through before they actually come on board. So I know with a little bit more confidence that this person's actually able to fulfill the certain standards that I have within the business. So like, cause when you hire people now, from my understanding is they have to be gone through some of your coaching development, they already have to be somewhat invested in Xero to open Xeros or be a part of Xero. Yeah. Whereas for us, like, we haven't quite reached that position yet. You know, a lot of the nutrition coaches, well, Jordan, for example, like, I reached out to her through social media and made her go through a lot of the things, and she's a big asset. Whereas Kirby was someone that invested in Nexus initially and whatever. So it's like, just that whole recruitment process of bringing people in, I think a lot of people, you know, may hire the wrong way because they haven't actually gone through a little bit more of a tedious process in bringing someone on board. Like, if someone's not willing to go that little bit of extra mile in the onboarding process, then how are they going to be when they're actually financially involved in your business and in your brand? Like, if
pressure.
Yeah, under certain pressures and things like that. So I think that for me has been like a little bit easier, but you're right. And like,
but you develop it over time. I think we've both made mistakes at some point with,
for sure,
with hiring and staff. Staff and people, I guess you could round all that out to. Is that like, you just, other people are different people. You can't, as much as it would be nice to sometimes, like, just clone yourself and go like, hey, you know, I
definitely don't think that Zach and Will are clones like that.
No, we coach way differently, but it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, interesting.
Yeah, a big part of it is just knowing what you actually want out of someone. Because I think where a lot of people go wrong with staffing stuff in our world, I can't speak for, you know, other businesses because it's different in other businesses, but especially if there's some layer of coaching involved, like, our brand is built on us. Like, Nexus is built on how you guys coach. And so when you bring new coaches in, it's like, how do you replicate that in those coaches to carry your product and your brand consistently, so you don't have to micromanage Jack and Jordan and everyone and be like, are they actually representing my brand in the best way possible? You can give trust and you can believe that it's happening. I think where a lot of people go wrong is that they focus on the skill set rather than the person.
Yeah.
Whereas in what we're doing, we are the ones that have the skill set that we then need to pass on. So when I hire people, I'm not looking for experienced coaches. I don't give a fuck about that. If anything, the greener the better, because I can teach them how to coach.
Yes.
That's the easy part. What I want is good people that are going to be able to represent my brand. And like you were saying, a big part of that for me is, I don't want to hire someone who wants a job. I want to hire someone who wants to work for Xero. I want to hire someone that's going to be
invested.
That's going to be Xero to death, which is why my like seeking grounds are people that have done something with me, whether it's coaching, coach development, anything. Like, I want someone who believes in what we have to offer, because fucking 80% of sales is just believing in the product.
Yes.
And if you've experienced the product, you believe in it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, that's what I've always said. Like, you know, with all of our staff, I believe that if you cut them, they bleed Nexus. You know what I mean? They're very loyal to our vision and who we are and what we do and how we do things. So I think, this, like, as you said, like, you can teach people skills. You can't teach people a good attitude. And that for me has been like the biggest thing when we go through our recruiting process, is just who they are as people, how they apply themselves to their work ethic and stuff like that. Like, those are some of the different qualities that we're looking at when we're recruiting anyways. So, yeah. And
the next layer to that is, you know, then you have to sift through the difference between people who genuinely want to be a part of Nexus and people who want to say they're a part of Nexus.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, that's easy enough to do, but for anyone listening, you're going to come across this at some stage. There's been plenty of people who are like, how do I get involved with Xero? I'm like, why do you want to get involved with Xero? Like, you never wanted to get...
Is it the novelty?
Yeah, you never wanted to get involved with Xero in the past. Why now? What's so appealing now?
It's like, the actions rather than words, right?
When people reach out to Will for coaching, they're like, I want to be coached by Will. It's like, why? Like, Will's probably, like, we've said this a couple of times, like, not as good of a coach as Zach, because Will's got a lot more going on in his life right now. He can't give you as much attention as what Zach would be able to as a coach, because Zach's role is a lot more coaching than Will's role as a business owner as well. So those are a few things that we've said, like, why is the novelty of working with Will so, you know, obviously we like to think that Will's still a really good fucking coach, but it's just limiting the amount of people that we're bringing on so that they're still experiencing the high quality service that we have to offer. So yeah.
Zach, did you have anything you wanted to bring up? I know you had a couple of questions. I don't know if you're still interested in them.
No, I do. I have one real one and one that we'll round out on.
One Zach
But like
one.
you were one. Like you were talking about before, Thomas, how things have kind of shifted and evolved quite heavily in powerlifting over the last little bit. I know a lot of people who've been in the sport and been a part of it for a very long time are kind of butthurt that it's shifted and demographics have changed and things aren't, like the old dirty fan in the corner of the shed aesthetic. As things have progressed and as the demographic has changed, is there anything that you wish would have stayed around from the dirty gym dungeon days that permeates into the culture now? Or do you feel like the culture is still inherently the same, just shown differently?
That's a good question. I think most of the time if someone's saying that they miss the good old days, they're dumb. Like because objectively everything is better right now than it ever has been. Like I really don't want to hone in on the negative, but the only real negative I can think of, which is not even a negative, it's actually kind of a positive, is what we were saying before, is in like Will and I can appreciate good equipment because we've had shit equipment. People coming into this world that have only had spoiled equipment and then are saying things like, what? You've only got a Rogue power bar on the Alico power bar. What? That Alico competition bar's sticker is slightly worn off. I need to find the one with the better sticker. Like that
If it doesn't have a sticker on it, like I'm not going to use it because it doesn't show that it's an Alico bar.
Yeah, that kind of thing is a little bit annoying, but it's also like, well, I've actually created that. I've done that in my own gym. Like that's my fault. So, and it's a good problem to have. But yeah, I think as a whole, this and it's part of my vision is taking the best stuff of what we had before, which is a big part of like the expertise, the specialist equipment, the community, the culture, the camaraderie, and blending it with all the fucking cool stuff of commercial gyms. More equipment, cleaner facilities, new stuff, better bathrooms, like everything that is cool about commercial gyms. So yeah, objectively, I think we're in the best spot we've ever been, and it's only going to get better.
I'd have to agree with that. I think people can hone in quite heavily on people are spoiled now or people don't have the same appreciation, but just the sheer amount of people that are now in the sport compared to the past, like, it's better. There's a bigger proving ground. There's more talent. There's way more opportunity.
I think it's just that nostalgia as well. Like, if you were around 20 years ago, like, and you miss those and you really, like, glorify those in your head, like, often you're just telling yourself a little bit of a lie. Like, you're just remembering it a little bit, not how it was. You're also 20 years younger, so you probably were, like, stronger and your knees probably felt better at that point, so it's easier to think back. And, I don't know, just there's other factors other than just, like, that one thing that you focus. It's the same when people tell me, "Oh, you remember old pre-workouts? How fucking good they were?" And I was like, "I remember how disgusting they were."
It tasted like battery. The only thing that I could think of was like when Broderick came in here and he was talking about like this like abusiveness, abusiveness, but like the culture of the people in his gyms, how they were really hardcore, like trained like animals, pushed each other like animals. When he was training in here, I don't know if you've seen Broderick train, but he was training with a couple of the guys in his gym. And he's like, "What? You've got 2 more? You're a pussy!" Like, don't know. Like, it was really aggressive, but. I mean, if it was a more tamed version of that, like, I feel like that's probably a few things. I mean, I feel like our spaces have really good communities and cultures, but I know if you commercialize it to a point where maybe you miss a little bit of that, like the hype, the hardcore, the intensity of some people's trainings, because they do kind of bitch out a little bit, like, "Oh, my knees are a little bit tender, I'm just not going to squat today, I'm going to go do all my accessories, or maybe I'll only squat and go home."
That's not me. I bitch the whole time, but I'll do them.
You bitch the whole time, but you do actually do them. I remember you and Tommy were battling each other out on the belt squat.
That's right. Yeah, no, I don't.
There's pros and cons to all that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can say that about Broderick, but look at his feet.
Yeah.
Look at his elbows. Like there is a point where it's a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But I always think about this from a business perspective, because what you're saying, Zach, you hear it a lot from business owners because they see the zeros and the nexuses, and they're saying it from a place of, I'm jealous, I'm salty, I'm envious because people are going there and not coming here. And it's kind of like, well, it's because we've got something better to offer. It's because we're offering it to the people that we're offering something that the people actually want. And people are always going to have that salty mindset when they look at that sort of stuff. They're always going to, they're not taking ownership. They're looking at what everyone else is doing and being like, well, why aren't people coming to me? And they can't figure it out. And a lot of the time it's just because they are living in the past.
Got to get with the times.
Because again, like objectively, this is what the people want, and the people are bringing money, and the money is allowing us to build what the people want. And so if you're not making any money, you can't build this kind of thing. So you're stuck in your own little world, and you think that it's the best world ever, and you can't work out why no one's seeing it in the way that you're seeing it. Like it's.
I think there may also just be maybe a little bit of shame in like owning that you're profiting. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I am doing well, and this is a result of doing well. And maybe some business owners have a little bit of shame in like advertising that they do actually do well. You know what I mean? So there's could be that like they're not willing to upgrade or anything. So Zach, next
question. What the fuck do your forearms feel like after a comp where you wrap that many knees? Like, what's going on when you get in the car to go home?
It's This is like, have you ever tried to give someone a massage and after like 5 minutes your thumbs are really sore and your fingers hurt and all that sort of stuff? You're like, how do people do this all day? It's technique, baby.
It's like
you just got it down pat.
You got to use the right muscles. So my secret is, it's not really a secret. In fact, it's kind of dumb. You know how people crank the shit out of the wraps? I always roll wraps loose. I roll wraps loose because if they're really cranked, you have to squeeze the shit out of them.
Hold on tight.
Yeah, it destroys your hands and forearms. So mine aren't super loose, but they're relatively loose. And then I don't have to hold it as tight. And then when I'm pulling, I'm not using like rotator cuff sort of stuff. I'm using my body weight. I'm using like my whole body and just being more efficient. It's just come with practice.
That's the rapping masterclass right there.
Yeah.
I think it was just
That's
like
it.
watching. Obviously, you know, we see you at many events and watching the grace. Because I know when Zach has to rap even 2 or 3 people, he's like, "Fuck, I've got to go over here, and now I've got to go over there." Oh, and it's like rapping this person. Like I think there was Tommy, and then there was someone in the weight. Or Tommy was about to squat, and then you had to rap Rido, and then after Rido, it was like come over and rap Will, and then from there go on checking in on Whitaker and just the juggling of multiple different people. And I think the easiest way to describe it is just like you have a lot more grace doing that than other people. Inside, you're probably like internally like, fuck.
No, these are the easy days.
Yeah.
The hard days were like Nationals 2015. I had 57 lifters, and then I wrapped a bunch of other people as well.
Yeah.
It's just volume. It's just like watching like I don't know what sports you're into. Olympic weightlifting. It's like watching what's his name, Abujayev or whatever. You know, do something perfectly and being like, how? Why don't mine look like that? He's just done it way more than you.
Yeah.
You know, I've just wrapped a lot more knees than most people.
You adapt, so you don't end up with like bad forearm DOMs.
Yeah.
I'd love to see like a rap counter. Like if you had that thought when you first wrapped your first set of knees, could you guess how many pairs of knees you've wrapped? Is there like
too many?
No way, too many. Damn.
Too many. Yeah. Yeah. No, the record is 160 at one comp.
Yeah, it would be
Which
tens
is
of
that?
thousands.
That's 160 knees.
Yeah. Not 160 people. Yeah.
Over time, a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and just
Well
lots of
acquainted.
training as well.
Yeah.
Lots
I
of
remember
training.
some of those days at PTC where there was like 5 of us using the one mono, and then
Everyone.
it was just brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just,
Will was always the biggest bitch though.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Thomas is like, I'll get one more out of this one, and was like, fuck, like just sitting there. Like,
That's all right. You're allowed to. Well, it's not comfortable, is it? Fuck. Like, I'm not going to act.
it's not even the amount of knees either. It's just the type of wrap. Some people just
oh, have
like
shitty
those
raps.
stiff Harris wraps when people are like, oh, can you wrap my knees? I'm like, oh, do I have to?
Yeah, the ones with the rubber on them and stuff as well.
Yeah,
like,
just like
We've got some downstairs that are like brand new. They're the Pioneer, like top of the stiffness.
yeah.
The silver ones.
Yeah, we haven't. I don't know. Yeah, but we have them down there in a bag, brand new. Anybody can use them, and I don't think anybody's ever touched them. Or maybe they've picked them up and gone like, ugh.
yeah. Or
Yeah, nah.
if someone picks them up, be like, put it away.
Actually, remember when you first started coaching me, and and then it was also, I think, my first or second comp in wraps? I don't know.
You had the
But I was brand new to wraps, and I had the strangulator. I bought them
I was
because
about to complain about strangulators. as
because
well.
I saw somebody else, like another good lifter in the world or whatever, use them at the time, and I was like, well, fuck, if he uses them, I'm using them. And then I got them, and then I remember like I just struggled with it. There were days where like I went down halfway, I'm like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. And then I remember you're like, hey, just go and buy yourself some of these ones.
Yeah.
Inzers, I think, yeah, and yeah, yeah, I just remember that now. That's just something I recall.
They got real popular, and they were shit wraps.
So
They weren't even good.
They really, really cut me up. Like I'd leave with just cuts all over my knees. But anyway, I'm just a bitch apparently. So
You are.
it's just
I'm just a bitch.
You came after the Titan THP trend. There were so many people that used Titan THP,
Yep.
and they were yuck.
Guilty.
They're still around, yeah.
They were my favorites.
I
love
actually don't
them
mind
so
squatting
much.
in them, but like wrapping everyone in them, that was gross. Because then before that, everyone was using Inzer INZs, and they're so easy to wrap.
Yeah, they're the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah,
They had to buy a new one for every single comp you do because they just wear out.
they
so
wear
quick.
out so quick.
Yeah. Anyway, cool. We'll leave it there.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
It was a good
Doing
time.
the trek.
We'll put all your details below the video and below the episode as to where you can find more stuff about Thomas in
like-
particular or Zero. But yeah, I have a feeling if you're watching this podcast, you probably know what Zero is. So
Yeah.
you're all good.
Nice,
Cool.
nice.
Cool.
Red hot.
See yous.
Thank you for listening to Nexus Unloaded. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned on today's podcast, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gym services. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at NexusPerformance.Aus for any updates on what we are currently doing. See you all in the next episode.